Few things are as breathtaking as the Milky Way over the Great Sand Dunes National Park.
Well, the sun's starting to fade, and I've got the camera set up from behind me for the main attraction. Main reason I wanted to come to the Great Sand Dunes was really not for the dunes themselves, but it was for the sky. This is one of the dark sky areas in North America, and so there's virtually no light pollution here. And tonight, I hope to take some pictures of the stars in the Milky Way. I want to get a panorama of the Milky Way. I want to take a couple of just single exposures as well. It hasn't gone exactly like I planned. I mean, got out here and I really carried a lot more gear than I should have. Brought my star tracker up here. Had it to do again. I wouldn't do that. Didn't need the extra weight. And with the sand, I can't get a firm and level foundation with my tripod. So I can shoot the panoramas, and I'll keep the shutter speed down to probably around 10 seconds. That seems to be the ideal for my camera in this lens setup. But I would like to have gotten, some long exposures here. But that's okay, because there's another day coming. And when I get to New Mexico, then I hope that I can use the star tracker there and have a very special place that I want to bring you that sort of ties everything together. Okay, it's getting dark, so I don't know if I'll be able to do much recording when I actually start shooting. But about 10:30, I'm planning to start doing the panorama for the Milky Way. Now, it is set to come up right to there at about 10 o'clock. You should be able to see the galactic center. So we're going to do a panorama of taking 3 shots. I've already taken the dunes for the front shot, and I'm going to take 3 more shots at the horizon, 3 more shots up top, and possibly 3 more shots. So I may do a panorama of 12 that is a 3x4.
When I talked about doing this Milky Way panorama, several of you asked me if I could show you how I do that. And in order to show you, I've come into the studio and we'll work this thing out here together. I use 3 programs. I use Final Cut Pro to edit the overall video, and then for the photos, I'll use 2 programs. One is Lightroom. I use Lightroom to do the editing for each individual photo, and then I use Affinity Photo 2 to stitch together the panoramas. I also use Affinity Photo 2 when I do focus stacking and other things like that. It's sort of like Photoshop, only I like it better than Photoshop for a couple of reasons. One, it's very powerful. It's a little more manual. You have to understand the program a little bit more. It doesn't have a lot of the AI stuff that Photoshop has started to incorporate. But it's also a one-time purchase. So I've purchased it, I own it, I'll keep it. I don't have to keep buying subscriptions like I do with Photoshop. Now Lightroom, I do have to pay for an annual subscription there, but it just makes the photo processing so much easier that it has become worth it. So those are the two photo programs that I use, and we'll get through each one of those. Right now I'm in Final Cut Pro. You know, you can sort of scroll through it and see the various aspects of what I've been working on. Now I'm here in the studio to start to stitch together these photos into a panorama. I'm going to stitch together a different Milky Way panorama that I took at the Great Sand Dunes the same night that I took this one. Let's do that. So the first thing I do is I have all of my Milky Way shots sort of looped together in this folder, and then for each folder I have an album set up with the pictures in them. We're going to use Great Sands 2 here, and there will be 8 photos for this that I'll stitch together. But the first thing I do is I go in and I edit them so that they all look the same. I'll go and I'll find typically what is the brightest of the series, and that's what I'll edit. And so let me get here, bring this up. When it's at normal exposure, it was just a little dark, so I'm going to brighten up the exposure just a little bit. I crank the contrast all the way up. I turn the highlights way down, bring the shadows up some, and in this case I brought the whites up just a little bit. As far as color and my white balance, I use the picker and I come out here and I'll pick what I want to use for the white balance. Give it just a little bit of tint, and I crank the vibrance up and the saturation up. And that starts to cause everything to pop for me. Also add a little texture, add some clarity to it, and that's just about it. Maybe just a little bit of sharpening. And I don't do the denoise on this photo. I'll save that. After I'm all done, I come down here and I hit the edit settings. Copy those. I want to copy the color. I want to copy the auto settings. I'm not doing the crop. I do want to copy the high dynamic range, light, color effects, optics. Not using any lens blur on this, but I will copy these. And after copying them, I will go back to all of my photos that I'm going to use, highlight them, and then I will paste the settings. After pasting the settings, then I will take and export these to a folder on my desktop that I can know where they're at. So I'm just going to come up to the desktop. Let me just find what do I want to do. Okay, I see folders here. I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this Great Sands Milky Way 2. Something that I know what I'm looking for when I get there. Export those. With them exported, I can get out of Lightroom, just quit it. I'm going to go to Affinity Photo. Go over here to Affinity Photo. And before I do that, let me just look at the desktop. Make sure it's there. Make sure I know what I'm looking at. There it is right there. Pull it over here where I can see it. Let's open it up. All right. There they all are. I'm not going to use this one. So I'm just going to pull that out of there. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 photos. It was 2 layers with 4 photos across each layer. Let me open up Affinity Photo, come up here, and I'm going to create a new panorama. just going to add those pictures. Now, this is very similar to what you would do in Photoshop. So if you use Photoshop, you'll be able to follow along with this. Going to my desktop, I'm going to come down here, Great Sand Dunes, Milky Way 2. There they are. I'm going to click on all of those and open them in my Panorama folder of my Affinity Photo 2 program. They're all right there. Then I'm going to say Stitch Panorama and let it do its magic. It will go through, since I overlapped each photo by anywhere from 30% to 50%. It will line up the stars, it'll line up the features, and it will overlay those and stitch them into a panorama. Does it very quickly. Here it is. I'm going to hit OK. It'll bring it down to my working screen. From there, it's going to render it. And there is the panorama. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to the crop, and I'm going to crop it to opaque. And all of this checkered part here, that is opaque. It's no background to it. But I'm going to crop this to the opaque part. There it is. I'm going to hit apply, and there is my panorama. Now, there's a couple of things in here that I want to edit out, but I'm going to do that back in Lightroom. So let me take this, export it, this is going to be a fairly large file. You can see it's 101 megabytes. I'm going to export this, and I'm going to pick the file that I want to export it to. So I go back to desktop, I go back to Great Sand Dunes, Milky Way 2. I'm going to call this Great Sand Dunes Milky Way 2 Pano. Okay, could probably be a shorter title, but this way I know what I'm talking about. It doesn't hurt anything. I'm going to save it there. It's exporting it to that file. Now I'm going to tab out of here and go to my file here. I want to make sure it's there. Great Sand Dunes Milky Way 2. And there is the JPG version of it. All right. So now I can just quit Affinity 2 because I'm not going to use that anymore. I'm not going to save the file. I know how to do this if I need to get back to it. Going back to Lightroom, and here I'm going to add that photo to my file. So I'm going to desktop. I'm going to go down here to Great Sand Dunes Milky Way 2. Great Sand Dunes Milky Way 2 Pano. I'm going to review it for import. There it is. I'm going to add it to my file here. And here it is. Now, a couple of things. First is I'm going to take the noise out of it. And one of the things I like about Lightroom is it does have some AI support. So on some, this one's not compatible with the AI version of the Lightroom, but I'm going to blow it up, and I'm going to take out in some luminance, take out some noise there, some color. All right, I'm going to sharpen it. I'm going to go back to fit. Okay, so one of the things that I don't like is this part right here. That is probably a jet that went through the screen as I was taking the long exposures. And I'm going to come here and I'm going to get rid of that. So here I can use, again, the AI part. I'm going to raise the size of my brush, and I'm just going to brush over that. I'm going to apply it. And just like that, it's gone. Now, let's go up and do some editing here. I'm not going to mess with the exposure. I am going to add a little bit more contrast, just slightly. Be careful with the contrast. It can be a blessing or a curse. I'm going to take, well, I am going to take down the highlights just a little bit more. The highlights were taken down in all of the photos that I stitched together, so I don't have to do too much. I do like having these bright, gaseous parts of the Milky Way in there. So I took that down. I'm going to take, what am I going to do with shadows? I'm going to leave the shadows alone. Whites, I got a lot of space here for the whites, but I'm not going to do too much with it. I mean, I'm going to bring it up some. Blacks, I'm not doing anything with the blacks. On the temperature, really not going to mess with the temperature. Let me just show it to you though. I mean, you can make it very blue. You can make it very warm. I sort of like just where it was at. Vibrance, I'm going to bring up the vibrance. I'm going to bring up some saturation just to make those colors pop out of there. Texture, give it a little texture here. Add a little bit more clarity into here. Take out the dehaze. Again, the dehaze I've found, be very careful with it. It can really be a blessing or a curse. I may add a little bit of vignette, just for a little mystery on the edges of it. And plus, it takes some of that orange down here, that glow down that was at the horizon. That was really from the lights down here at the Welcome Center. I was a little disappointed, to be honest. This is a dark sky area, and I was really hoping to get the dark sky. I had gone up to the high dunes. There were a lot of people that were camping out there. They were flashing lights and all kinds of stuff. I was afraid it was going to mess up this shot. So I moved from the high dunes, went down to another lower set of dunes, and took this photo. But with it, the visitor center was visible across the way. I sort of like that. Now there's some other things I could do. I could run it through a program called Star Exterminator, and that would remove all of the stars, and then I could bring those back in selectively. But I hesitate to do that just from an ethics standpoint. I like to be able to show what I saw, and this was pretty much it. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to export it back, put it right back to desktop, Great Sand Dunes Milky Way number 2, export it into there. Now, I'm going to quit Lightroom. So with that, I go back to Final Cut Pro. I'm going to import that in here. I'm going to import this. We'll pull it down in here onto the timeline, and there it is. If you don't want to see the technical side to see how I'm putting this together, then I'll have chapters below in the description. Click on one of the chapters, just move toward the end, and you'll see the final product. One with 16 photos stitched together in 4 layers, and the other with 8 photos stitched together in 2 layers. Which do you like best? Any suggestions on what I should do? I appreciate all that you could share with me. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, stay on the path. God bless you.